what are the one or two steps you believe marketers should be taken now to adjust to this, the new environment that we sit in? We'll go macro first, and then maybe if you're comfortable, certainly going micro level within your specific industry, if there's one or two steps that you believe marketers should be taking.
Since we were we have a very culture of meeting, greeting, hugging each other in the company, right? So those things have gone away at high level, right? But what has really come out is so since people are not cannot really take vacation days, like in Europe, we do get a lot of vacation days, so everybody's working, and since people are more empathetic towards each other, the productivity levels are all-time high. Like our time to market has dropped by 50%. So time to market is basically when we think of a future feature to launch a feature, right? So this is great. And I would say, I think the stuff that we want to plan, the trust we have within the people has really significantly increased. And now, there was a joke, why don't we just keep work from home for the entire year?
From a technology point of view, not much has changed because we were built to be digital, right? So compliance, regulatory, all those frameworks were anyways real-time and digital and connected through APIs. So the team interactions, so we had, unlike the traditional bank, we had a very open sitting culture and a no barriers kind of an office workspace, which is a given for a startup environment. But when you talk about banking, typically you still think about people in suits and ties, which we were not. So we were small and a very cohesive team. And while it's great to schedule these sessions and activities with the teams to keep everybody engaged, but what we really miss is those impromptu conversations that you would just, the banter, the fun, which was never planned. You cannot plan those moments. I think that camaraderie is something that people miss, and you suddenly realize, oh my God, I'm just working. You start at 9 and then you just go on. There are no such coffee breaks in between. You have this feeling of I'm working a lot more. Definitely productivity has improved significantly. Personally, for me, I can say that I get pulled into fewer meetings that are eating into my time. So I have more time to actually do my work, and still I get so much more quality time with my kids. So fewer disruptions to my daily workflow. When you're sitting in an open environment and there are 20 people who pass by and always, end up creating those interruptions which break your, normal workflow. With all the advantages of open seating, this was truly a challenge. So I get pulled into fewer meetings, and the meetings that we have are generally, more time-bound and controlled, and everybody seems to be more switched on. No one has the excuse for, sorry, I'm late, we'll delay it. Things start on time, end on time, and, so definitely productivity is a lot higher, and I think people are feeling they are able to make better use of their time.
So work from home for us was almost built into our DNA. Even as a company pre-COVID, we were a fairly flexible organization, very aligned to achievement-based tracking as opposed to activity-based tracking for people. And so for us, while the transition has, brought its challenges, I think it's been very easy for our workforce to adapt to this culture. Much like Preeti said, productivity is increased, people are working more, people are collaborating more. I think there's more empathy and understanding of each other's challenges and limitations. I've seen trends of members spending that 1 minute extra listening to challenges, before making a decision, or understanding the other person's perspective. So I just think generally people have become more mindful of each other's challenges, different functions. We've also seen, and especially in my industry with the shutdown on restaurants and dine-in being closed, we've seen a lot of engagement with restaurant partners. So I guess this change in being more mindful and being more engaged and more proactive in identifying and solving problems has expanded not just from within, but to partners as well. And I think that's really a great initiative, and it's here to stay, because these things, while we'll go back to a new normal, a COVID normal, after this crisis becomes a little less notorious, I still think there will be that perspective that will stay with people. I think all of us have grown a little bit within this crisis and just become better human beings, better professionals, and just better stakeholders in the business.
So what I would start off with, clearly COVID-19's blindsided everyone. I mean, people sort of thought this was gonna sort of happen, but they never knew it was going to be to this degree, where there was going to be all of this shutdown and shelter in place. So clearly it's I would say the first thing to sort of look at is really the impact it's had on your marketing team and the team in general at the company, because clearly a lot of people have been impacted in many different ways. So for some companies are kind of set up to work remotely, maybe a couple of days a week, but I don't feel a lot of companies have been set up to do it full time and for this prolonged period of time. So for me, in terms of the first couple of steps, the first was really just to make sure my team was doing well, and the company in general, in terms of what are going to be the new ways that we can continue to keep everybody to be able to be productive and to be able to communicate and how to keep the morale high, because and make sure that there was a lot of transparency so people knew how the business was doing. The second part is really, how is this going to impact the business? Being on the growth team, our responsibility is to drive growth and to ensure that there's no, ensure whatever these external risks are to the business and to try to mitigate them as much as possible. So the second part, a lot of our growth was coming from paid user acquisition. So it was to really figure out what's the marketplace looking like at this given point in time. And then the third part was, based on how that was sort of impacting the business, what are the steps that we could potentially take to try and mitigate those risks as much as possible. So to try and get a little bit sort of more into sort of the weeds from that, for us, we were growing pretty rapidly even before this thing, the whole COVID-19 impact happened. I personally, have been planning for some kind of economic slowdown, because the reality is there's never ever going to be a boom forever, right? So, for the last couple of years, one of the things that I tried to put into place at MView was to try and automate as much as possible on the execution side of my team, as well as to leverage AI and try to figure out how can we continue to be kind of, productive and be lean at the same time. So that was kind of my mindset. So, I felt, with COVID-19 coming, it didn't really impact the team from an execution standpoint, because a lot of the tasks and processes that we do when it goes into managing and orchestrating different campaigns and running different tests, all of that is automated to a large fashion. So that wasn't really impacted. But the other part was just the profound signals that we were getting from the marketplace that a lot of these other advertisers were pulling out actually opened up a whole new opportunity for us, because our machine was insights was telling us that we noticed at a certain period, CPMs and CPIs were coming down 20 to 40%. And we had opportunities to actually spend more. So that's what we ended up doing. One of the first things we did was to try and adapt to the new reality from a paid user acquisition, and how can we sort of, drive more growth. And then to layer on top of that, the other part that we didn't really sort of plan for was the additional capacity and bandwidth this was going to strain into our servers, because we had so many more organic users that started coming into the system. And so for that, that was actually, I guess a better problem to have than the other problem, which is getting a lot of users coming versus not enough. But that also required a lot of change on our side, because, we had to sort of step back, so to speak, on the gas for a little part to make sure that our server and operations team could could build up the server capacity that was needed with this additional increased bandwidth that we were getting from this additional growth that was way beyond the normality of any growth that we got at a peak time in any holiday season. So shifting to that was the other piece, was to really change kind of our creative messages that were going out in the marketplace to make sure that there was, we were kind of leading with empathy first and inspirational. And we didn't want to be one of those brands that was going to try to put the fear message out there, because, I mean, we've never had fear-based messages anyway, but just being a little bit more sensitive in the messaging has really helped us sort of stand out from some of the other advertisers that didn't kind of change their messages so quickly.
From our side, what we observed and what other big medias also are writing some articles, that crisis and recessions generate a shift of consumption from similar categories that are not always obvious, and it's very difficult to predict. And in our case, also our main category, that was food, because of closing, many our partners, the restaurants in the core market that we present, it's impossible to retain these kind of users. And but on another side, as we get a lot of new customers coming from groceries, because online groceries is a huge part of our life right now, the people life, and we play we're starting to play a really huge role in people's life. And because of that, in my opinion, marketers show temporary focus on the categories that became popular during the COVID-19. And also another observation that we observed, that is shifting advertising costs from offline to online channels.